Hi, everybody, and welcome back to the Talking About the Big Stuff podcast. I am Michael Cole.
And I am Matthew Cravat, and you got the intro right.
I know. And this, if you're listening to this podcast and not just not watching it, just so you know, we will be this will be our first episode that's going up on YouTube. The whole episode will go up on the whole episode minus everything I cut out, but yeah, the whole episode will
All
go
the
up on
funny
YouTube.
things that I say will be cut out, as per usual.
Well, that's the whole key to this endeavor.
I know, that's how it works. Yeah.
I'm Conan, and you are. Why am I forgetting? Andy
Richter?
Richter, yeah. Although Andy Richter's pretty funny, so
he is.
So anyway, also it's interesting that I picked a day where I guess I can't see it on camera right now, but I'm a little sunburned from. I helped with Logan's field day today. Yeah, I got partnered with this really hot mom, and she had just amazing big tits. And
so you and Sarah did it together. Cool.
Yeah, no, that's exactly who it was. I was going to make that fucking joke.
I know how you work. I know how you think.
I mean, I might have thought that if it was another person, but I wasn't going to say it out loud.
No, not on a recording.
No. No, but I did say that to her as we were leaving, but there was this other woman that was there who, not remotely attractive, super fucking annoying, that was there that kept coming over to basically tell us we were doing it wrong. And so I told Sarah, I was like, oh yeah, I picked her up and I was like, I got partnered with this really hot woman who I absolutely wanted to fuck. And she was like, oh yeah. Ha. And I was like, yeah. And you were there. And she, she thought it was funny because that lady was quite the asshole. So anyway, I'm definitely okay. So Suba offered to make So Anyway shirts and graphic design them for us, or to make some kind of So Anyway.
Talking about the big stuff. So anyway,
yeah, I was thinking about making shirts for anybody that we have as a guest that we can send out so they can wear them that say So anyway, I was a guest on the Talking About the Big Stuff podcast. And then maybe if we like the design, we can do a regular one that's like a merch kind of thing for people. Because I think that it's important for our 2 or 3 listeners to be able to have opportunities to spend money on stupid shit.
So I get a shirt because I was a guest. My daughter gets a shirt. Your son gets a shirt. It's a good way to get free clothes for our own family.
Yeah. Well, I had a good amount of guests on before you took over co-hosting duties, and I still plan on having guests, but yeah, we just need to think ahead a little bit more. And sometimes it did make me feel better. Just so you know, I don't know if you've been listening to Dear Old Dads.
Yep.
They were talking about how they usually text 20 minutes before, what are we going to talk about today or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, so we're not the only ones. No.
Yeah. So I'm busy planning the show for 20 minutes from now.
Just so all of our listeners know, I have we have a Google Doc and we have a list of topics that we add to it as they come into our heads. And then on the day of recording around lunchtime, I look at the list and I go,
I don't like any of these.
Let's fucking do that one. And then, or in this case, because we're doing 2 tonight, let's do those 2.
He sends them to me, and I was like, I don't know what that means. You made that phrase up.
Yeah. And speaking of which, is that the first? Well, I guess it'll be the first episode.
It is now.
Yeah. So tonight's topic is a phrase that Jesus fucking Christ with the dogs.
Tonight's topic is Jesus fucking Christ. Yeah. Porn movies made by the Messiah.
Okay. Here is a movie.
So anyway,
here's a movie a pitch that I would like to pitch to you. That anyone can steal this idea because I'm never going to make it.
Any of you, all the 3 of you,
the 3 of you can make this idea. So you are familiar.
Remy in France, our one French listener, you can do this idea.
Yeah. You're familiar with the beginning of the concept of the original Jurassic Park and how they get the dinosaurs.
Yeah, it comes in shaving cream.
Yeah. No.
Yeah.
The you know,
Mosquitoes in amber and
yeah, and
pull out
taking
the
the
DNA.
DNA and then having to put a little bit of extra DNA into the sequence to finalize it and finish it. So my thought was somebody takes the Shroud of Turin, which I'm aware in real life it is fake, but in the movie it's not fake. They take the Shroud of Turin and they take some of the DNA off the Shroud of Turin. But they don't have the DNA is so old that they do need to put a little bit of something in there
It's
to make
frog
it
DNA.
right. So they put something. I don't care what it is. Whatever works for the premise of the movie, and so it becomes a similar thriller horror movie to Jurassic Park, and we call it Jurassic Park.
I'm on board.
Yes. Okay. It is the shittiest. I actually there's like a certain level of like movie that I could see this end up getting made with, like not Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, but like those old like real schlock stuff. I could see Jurassic Park getting made. Back to the topic for the
So before you leave your great movie, you know that concept's been done by Star Trek, right? Without Jesus.
no.
Yeah. So there's an episode of Star Trek: Next Generation called "The Rightful Heir," where um, Worf goes on like a religious retreat and he's like meditating and doing stuff, and he has a vision of Kahless, the person who basically the first emperor of the Klingon homeworld who brought Kronos together under one tribe for the first time, and he and then when he has a vision, Kahless actually appears and he's real, like he's returned, and they trying to prove if it's him or not. He knows all the stories, and they do a DNA test, and his DNA matches the blood on his batleth, his sword that's in the museum, so it's actually him. And then they discover some inconsistencies, like he knows all the stories but not the details. Like, I fought my best, I fought this man on the edge of the river, and they go, what was his name? I don't know, but I fought him on the river. Like, how do you remember all the details that everybody else knows, but none of the details nobody knows? And they realize that the religious caste used that same blood that was on the batleth and cloned Kahless, and they just programmed every story about him in his head. So he has all the myths and stories in his head, but none of the details because they didn't have details to add. But he really is him. He's a clone of Kahless. So he ends up becoming the spiritual leader of Kronos and the planet of the Klingon people, but like doesn't take over as a political leader since he was just a clone.
Nice.
And they play "Send in the Clones." It had to be clones. It's really sweet. Yeah, you weren't alive for that song. Never mind.
Send in the clowns. I know. I just didn't know if you were being serious if they actually made a version of him for that.
Yeah, this great moving episode about their spiritual leader, and they sang a parody song.
Yeah. All right. So
what are we talking about today that I did not understand what you meant?
Okay.
Maybe I'll understand it now.
You kind of understood it when I explained it a little bit, right?
Yeah, maybe. I said sure.
All right. So what I texted Matthew was not so we're very used to the concept of victimless crimes, but I was talking about crimeless victims,
which I of course thought you meant victimless crimes, and you're just stupid.
No, I am stupid, but this is a different thing. No, the crimeless victims. So I will give you the first example that kind of brought it up, and it's fiction, so keep that in mind. But I was listening to I don't know if it's well established on the podcast or not, but I love time travel. It's one of my favorite. Whether it's whatever genre it ends up being in, I love time travel stories. So there was a woman who Rowan. I will look it up and link it in because she's got great YouTube videos. I did not love this particular one I'm about to mention, but she did a video about time travel love stories and the problem with inherent in them. And one
my
of the
own grandpa stories.
No, not exactly. So one of the ones she talked about is The Time Traveler's Wife, which is the novel that I happen to be reading right now. But I've also seen the show, so I have an idea of it. And I was like, if she starts to get into real spoiler territory, I'll just stop the video. As far as I know, she didn't get in, but I did end up stopping because I was like, I don't want to listen to this particular video. But one of the points she points out with the dynamic of time traveler romance stories is the inherent manipulation in it. So she brings up About Time, which I also love. I think it's a really good movie, but she has some good points about that. I think that he's kind of a bad character because or ill intent character because he uses it for his own personal gain. In that movie, in The Time Traveler's Wife, it has a really complicated story where it's very much a bootstrap paradox kind of story, which I don't mind a good bootstrap paradox, and I think so far it's done pretty well.
I don't mind a good bootstrap paradox.
Yeah, but for those of you who don't know, the bootstrap paradox is like you going back in time sets into motion the events that allow you or force you to go back in time, therefore creating like a Mobius strip.
Yeah. Or you go back in time, the classic one is, and
Create
you
your
write Beethoven's symphonies for him and give it to him. And so he publishes them and he gets famous for having written them, but nobody ever wrote them because you only knew them because Beethoven had written them, but he didn't write them. So who wrote them? So it's got
right,
this paradox loop when did it start?
right. So in The Time Traveler's Wife, it's about these two characters, Henry and Claire. And Claire meets Henry when she is 6 years old, and he's not an old man. He's probably not even as old as I am at that point, but he's an adult. And he doesn't time travel on purpose. He is thrown through time. So she meets him, and he keeps revisiting her. Um, and in that process she falls in love with him, and she finds that she wants to get married to him. This is all pretty quick in the trailer kind of thing. And then when he first meets her, he's 28 or so, and 20-year-old her walks in to his job and recognizes him because she's known him for 14 years. He's never met her before, but he knows because he's a time traveler. As soon as the look on her face, he realizes that he's met her before, that she's met him before. It's very similar to River and the Doctor, but she quickly is like, "Yeah, we're gonna get married," and so it becomes this weird fated thing, and they're describing fate in the whole thing. And there's some parts where it's really uncomfortable because there's this 30 to 40-year-old man who is ending up with a 15-year-old girl, and it's his wife that he knows and he's had sex with, and so he's seeing her as a young woman who is post-pubescent, and so he's having these conflicting feelings. It is very, I would say it's very uncomfortable, and I think that's part of the purpose of it. But the video, she talks about basically him grooming her. And for me, I feel like they're both victims in this. And while it's real uncomfortable for us as readers or watchers, uh, it isn't that I don't see him as a perpetrator. I see him as another victim at a different level, and her as a victim. And she's the more obvious victim, I suppose. But she's not. But he's not perpetrating, and he very there's a couple parts where maybe he does cross the line. It's a hard ethical dilemma, um and because we're including ethics on a hypothetical level that are very extreme. But so that was what made me think of this idea of crimeless victims. So like, I don't think for the most part that there's anyone doing anything specifically wrong. It's not like he's going back in time to find his 13-year-old 14-year-old girlfriend and spend time with her. He's just getting thrown out to her basically by whatever this process is, which I haven't read the whole book, so maybe they explain it. I don't know.
So maybe it is his fault. You just don't know it yet. Future him may have done it intentionally to past him.
Very possible.
Don't know.
Yeah, future me has not come back to tell me how it ends yet to explain if that's going to happen. But
Yeah.
So that was what made me think of the idea of the crimeless victim. But I do think that we have a tendency, we have a very black and white mentality on a lot of.
But are you going to bring race into this?
Okay, a very binary.
As soon as you talk about crime, you start bringing race into it.
A very binary. Look
so Massachusetts
on any kind of ethical situation. There's a right and there's a wrong, And it doesn't, to me, it seems much more complicated and nuanced. And the other example that I thought of in my head, like, was okay, something that we hear about, and as a society, is um, people having sex with someone under the influence. And so it's very, if you have two, it's very common to hear about somebody take, it's they're not able to consent, which, and I'm not debating that, but if two people are really, really fucked up and they both are, for all intents and purposes, consenting, there are places where, well, the guy shouldn't do it. And I'm like, well, the guy is also, I mean,
If
erections
they're
are
both
different.
equally, if they're both impaired.
Yeah.
But it is weird. I mean, the whole way we handle responsibility impairment is really inconsistent.
Hmm.
Because if you get drunk and drive your car and kill someone, you are responsible for what you did because you chose to get drunk.
Hmm.
But if you get drunk and you get sexually assaulted, you're not responsible because even though you chose to get drunk. Like, it's weird that we say sometimes you
Finally,
are responsible what happens when you drink, and sometimes we say you're not responsible what happens when you drink.
I would say that
It's weird.
there is, yes, but I would also say that there's a good amount of people who would punish someone for getting drunk and getting sexually assaulted. But my point just
But I'm
is,
saying legally we don't though.
yeah, like I
We
think that
say we like we do say if you're drunk driving, you chose to get drunk.
yeah,
And so the fact that you couldn't choose that driving was a bad choice,
yeah,
it's irrelevant. You made the first choice, but we don't make that for everything else involving drinking. We
yeah,
don't. We wait and see what happens, and then we decide if it's your fault or not for drinking after we see what happens,
right,
which is
right.
odd.
It is odd, and it to
So I
me,
get it from protecting the victim standpoint, but it's
I
not consistent, especially in your case of
yeah,
two people get drunk together, they go drink for drink, they're equal body weight, and then we say one of them is responsible for what happened next, not the other.
yeah. I think the
That's weird.
only thing that works again, I think the thing that defines this as it is right now is the penetrative part of it. It becomes, and it's, and maybe it's misogyny and sexism and a lot of other issues rolled into it. But I think the reason, like, for when you're talking about two absolutely intoxicated people who are basically the exact same level of intoxicated, if they have sex, I think that they could both have reasonable, and regret sounds like it's a condescending term. I don't mean it like that.
Mm-hmm.
But victim also doesn't sound right. Like, there's
Yeah.
something in between where they're like,
Well, I mean, and you
they've
don't have
been
to be equally
aggrieved.
drunk. You don't have
Right,
to be equally drunk. Just you both pass the point where you can't make a rational,
right,
informed decision.
right,
Because you once you pass that point, it doesn't make a difference how much more you drink. You already passed that point.
right. I agree.
So,
But
so
and I,
you could have two people wake up in the morning, look at the person next to them, say, "What the hell did I do?"
yeah, I was waiting till marriage, or I was doing this, and have some kind of genuine, and what's the, it's gonna be something beyond aggrievement, beyond regret. That's like genuine, like they've it's trauma, almost like trauma without the victimization necessarily. You can have that happen. It would be the same. Okay, here's a better example of something where I think it could happen. I just watched a sketch on Instagram for this, and this is more okay. You're going, you Sarah and I, we've been married for almost 9 years. We go take a DNA test, and we find out that we're brother and sister. It's been implied to
She
us
told
by
you?
several. Yeah, she told me. No, but neither of us knew. We are both the victims, but neither of us is the victimizer. And so we have a lot of situations like this. But typically, the way we as a society tend to see things, it would be, we have to find the bad guy in that situation, and instead of dealing with the situation as it is.
Yeah,
I wish I
I'm going to
hadn't used
talk out
myself
my
as an example. I wish I had
yeah.
said Rudy Giuliani and his cousin get married. That would have been
Yeah,
better.
yeah. You married Rudy Giuliani's cousin.
Yeah.
So I'm going to talk out my ass. I have no idea what I'm talking about. I'm making this up as I go along. But I wonder if it might not be. So I'm not saying a definitive thing. I'm not. Don't accuse me. I wonder if it might be like an evolutionary protection. That if something bad happens and someone or something, some agent is responsible, it does a person and a society good to be able to identify that to avoid it in the future. So the inherent need to find out what the cause was and what did it so it won't happen again, any bad thing, might be kind of bred into us, because the people who didn't do that died the second time.
Right.
The people who did find out what caused the bad thing, oh, 3 people just died, maybe we shouldn't drink from that water again. The people who looked for a root cause tended to survive. Those societies survived, so it's like bred into us to look for a root cause.
Right.
And it's not always right, but it's being wrong when not finding a cause when there is one can be dangerous.
Okay.
Not trying to find a cause when there is one could be more dangerous.
Okay, I think that is a fair point. I think, and maybe this is because I'm still a little baby atheist, and so I'm still in that pendulum swinging mode. But I also think that there's a chance that as we developed religion, and that created a very binary view of the world and for us. And so, and even though you're not religious, and now I'm not religious, we are shaped in ways that we maybe don't realize.
Western culture is Western culture.
Yeah. And so I wonder if that, the idea of good and evil and black and white, and
but doesn't religion also have the flip side? The God's will, it's a mystery. Like, why did that child get cancer? Oh, it's not God's fault. It's a mystery. The mysterious ways, like, and you don't look for a victim because you're told to just accept it and move on. So there's elements of both in religion, right?
That's a lot of times, though, that's just because there's no. But
I only go with the original.
The point I was going to start to get to was that I've becoming much more diplomatic. I've becoming, I would say, I am learning, and a lot of this is work. A lot of this at work, they're trying to get me to be not an asshole all the time, and that's hard for me. Like I did,
That's where I wasn't a good boss, because I encouraged you being an asshole.
Yeah. Before you joined the podcast as a co-host, I had my friend Paul on, who you've talked about, and one of the episodes with Paul was about identity and becoming who we really are. And I spent a long time getting to where my outside behavior matched my inside. And now everyone's like, no, bottle
bring it back.
Up.
Yeah. People who say just be yourself don't know who myself is.
Yeah.
They have no idea.
I was raised, so my dad is very much opposed to absolutism in language.
There should never be absolutism.
Only a Sith deals in absolutes.
Said the Jedi in an absolute way.
But no, he just, if you said like, oh, everybody, it doesn't matter what comes after that, he's going to disagree with you. Or he would. I don't know if he would now. Like, but back
he just agrees to everything I say because he hates me.
Yeah, true. Okay, we checked that off. So we've made. Yep. But I was raised with that, and so what were we saying before? I totally spaced.
Your aunt, they, them.
No.
When we were God
damn it.
See, he shouldn't have went on a tangent. You heard him, ladies and gentlemen. He went on the tangent. We were going along fine talking about our topic, and then he decides, I'm going to talk about Instagram now.
This is the tangent.
Completely unrelated to anything. Going to talk about Instagram. We have time travel, grooming. We had him sleeping with his sister. Grooming. We had all this good stuff. Sex with Sam. And
No, this is getting cut out. That's disgusting.
so we need a quick. So anyway.
No, what was I saying before I said the thing about my dad and the absolutism? God damn it! This was important.
That you were being yourself, matching who you really are.
Yeah. Oh fuck.
And they want you to be less of an asshole at work, so you're trying to be more diplomatic.
Yeah.
This is where you were. I'm sorry if this isn't happy for you.
There's like some little thought that I was having.
It's nobody's fault. This is a crimeless victim. No. It's nobody's fault that he went off on a tangent within a tangent within a tangent. He triple tangented himself.
Your constant joking derailed me.
I derailed him on his third level down tangent. Go back and listen. You all heard it.
Our first
talking about having a conversation. He goes, wait a second, I want to talk about, we have an Instagram, follow the Instagram. I made a joke on the Instagram, and my answer this, oh, wait, and I said something nice back because at work, let me just tell you about work. At work, I'm being an asshole, and somebody stop being an asshole. And my dad doesn't like absolutes. So let's remember that we're talking about our topic, and then Instagram, and then a meme, and then the response to the meme, and then grammar about the meme, and then my dad being an asshole at work, and at work they think my dad's an asshole because he hates Matthew. That's how we got here.
Okay.
And I really hope no one's listening to this at like 1.2 or 1.3 speed, because that would be horrible. It would just be a beep.
Yeah. I've got nothing.
I haven't done that in a long time. That's one of my favorite gags is recapping things in a quick way. When they did it in Ant-Man, it kind of upset me because it's been my shtick for 15 years of comedy.
Yeah.
They stole it from me.
Yeah. So the joke I was gonna make, not the original thing that I still don't remember.
2 levels
but
down.
The joke I was gonna make was that as you were starting to rant and interrupt, is that it's our first episode on YouTube and it's our last episode together.
Fair.
Yeah.
Everybody on YouTube can see I live with David Hasselhoff in my storeroom. It's great.
Yeah, and they can see I'm wearing Mickey and I'm drinking Minnie.
Mm-hmm.
And that probably sounds a little dirty, but
and he's fucking goofy.
Yeah, I saw that meme the other day where it's the so you want a divorce from your wife Minnie because she's extremely silly? No, she's fucking goofy. It's a good joke. I got to get some of that sweet.
They love it at Disney World.
Some of that
sweet DeSantis comedy.
I want to get some of that sweet mouse ussy. Have you been seeing that they're just adding ussy to the end of every word now?
No, I'm an old man. I don't see what the kids are doing today.
Well, you should. Okay. Well, that was the whole episode, guys. No. Do you have any examples or that you think are interesting?
Well, I mean, I think philosophically it goes back to what my cult leader, Aaron Rabinowitz of Embrace the Void podcast, Philosophers in Space, says, that, it's luck all the way down. There's this sometimes, even if someone is responsible, there's levels of luck that led that person to be what they were and do what they did. So it's looking for blame. It's kind of like, when do you stop digging? How far back do you go and where the blame tree lands?
That makes that makes a lot of sense. And it's funny. I'm pretty sure that people that know me will listen to this episode and be like, Mike doesn't want to blame people, because I feel like I am constantly blaming people.
After he blamed me because he forgot on his tangent where he was, he blamed me while he's saying he doesn't blame people.
Why don't you recap the whole thing real quick? Anyway, it got me thinking about this, the binariness of that particular side of morality. And I do think there's a lot of society where we need to find a bad guy. We need to blame people. I saw something right before we got online. There was a porn actress on Instagram that was talking about some of the downsides of being in porn. It was like she was being interviewed or something, and for some reason, okay, this is me being a glutton for punishment, but
which is one of the downsides of being in porn.
Yeah, I know. I go in the comments section I go in the comments section, and it's just the most like fucking ridiculous misogyny and evil shit that I've seen, and I'm like, she wasn't blaming anybody. She just was like complaining about the things, and they're like, well, these are the consequences of your actions, which I think is part of the problem with this idea of victim of having a victim and not having a crime, is that then you blame. That's why we blame the victim sometimes, not always. Sometimes we just are misogynist assholes who blame. Well,
sometimes it's a defense. I don't want to be blamed, so I'll blame the victim.
Yeah, but like there was. They were like ripping her apart, and I'm like, dude, like she's just saying that.
That's
like,
one of the downsides of doing porn too.
Yeah,
those guys are big.
Yeah, well, it was tough though. Like she's like getting teary in the video, and people are just being like such psychos. And I've seen other videos with her, on Instagram. And yeah, I've seen her being stitched. No, that's not right either. That's the term. It's the fucking term is stitched.
Yeah,
Where
that's why I said the guys are really big, get torn
no,
apart, and then you got to get stitched.
or maybe you're one of the guys that I have a problem with. No, no, I've seen a lot of guys. So there's another clip of that same woman saying something about how her boyfriend, when she would come home, didn't want to kiss her, and it made her feel dirty. And then there'd be
Unless she
stitches with
gargled first, at least.
yeah. Well,
It's
that was
reasonable.
yeah. That was 100% reasonable to like want somebody to like brush their teeth and shower, but I would do that after my job. Like just if you get sweaty and gross, just do that before
I
you.
get fucked over in my job too, and I want to come home and take a shower.
My point just being like there's this level to which like people I don't know where I was going with this.
But
Uh,
I definitely I will cop to. I have the instinct of you did something wrong happen whenever someone gets hurt around me. Like when the kids would get hurt, my first thought is, what were you doing?
yeah,
And I have to push that back and not blame them for whatever. I mean, usually it's because they did something wrong, but it's not what is needed in the moment. So that's maybe we should have a topic about this. My first instinct is not the right instinct. I have to bite that one back and then have my brain override it and say, it doesn't make a difference what he did wrong. He's bleeding on
yeah,
my couch. I need to get him off the couch and let him bleed somewhere like linoleum where I can
yeah.
clean it up better.
That would be a good topic for if we did like a second episode today. That would be a good
Yeah, that
topic
would be a
for
good
it.
topic. We should do that.
Yeah. Um,
I'm segueing. I'm segueing. But
yeah.
still, it is like one of my
Yeah.
instinct is who did, and I'm sure it's because my father used to, if my mother screamed, my father would run down into the room and hit whoever was closest to him and then say who did what. Because he had to punish first and then see who he was supposed to be mad at. And it's because when he was young, his mother would scream and his father would come in the room and hit him. So that cycle, I don't do the come in the room and hit so often because my kids are bigger than me now. But but I did. There still is the instinct of someone did something wrong or something bad wouldn't have happened, and I
Yeah.
have to kind of replay that. So that's not necessarily true to deal with the situation at hand.
Nice. Yeah, I agree. I have. Yeah, the Hoff agrees. I'll have to go buy like a cardboard cutout to be like right. You could see Logan's baby
Logan's feet.
feet prints and handprints. Um, yeah, I got to make it now. If we're gonna be doing video, I got to like make this my like little studio a little more.
Now, do I have to clean? I'm not cleaning this room. It's too much work.
I think
I've been using this as an office for 2 years, and I'm not cleaning
you just
it.
need to get like a little wider backdrop because honestly, like right now, like I think when we edit it for YouTube, what we're seeing the edges will be the edges.
Yeah, yeah. I
So
mean, I need a less wide angle camera. Problem is, I can't control what platform we're using and what it does for its default sizes.
true, but we'll figure it out. All right. Anything that you want to plug?
Um,
I feel like we didn't talk enough. I feel like I
we
don't know.
didn't. It's short because we went on a tangent about porn stars and their web pages.
Instagram, and it wasn't her Instagram. I don't follow
It
her
wasn't
or
her
any
Instagram.
other porn star on
Whose
Instagram.
Instagram was she making videos on?
It was just somebody clipped something. I don't know. It
And they
came
did
up
what
in
they
my
do. What they do to
feed.
her? They stitched her.
They
Admit it.
stitched
They
her.
stitched her.
This one actually didn't get stitched, but the other videos. That,
I only know what that means recently too. I was watching a Bible historian, and like he shows a clip and he has a disclaimer saying "Stitch coming." Do not flame this person. Do not track them down. And then like
yeah,
they plays a little clip, and then he comes in and he goes all historian and corrects them if they're wrong, agrees with them if they're right. But
yeah,
he seems to be down the road, being honest with his, not trying to prove anything.
yeah. We should just
But he
have.
stitches. That's what I'm trying to say. He stitches. And
Yeah,
I've discovered a stitch in 9 saves time.
yeah. I don't know what the fuck that means. I know that it's a saying, but I never understood it.
It saves time.
I like when we have old sayings that just are based on antiquated shit that we don't know it anymore. It's probably similar to like when like kids nowadays won't know what a disc is. They'll just be like, oh, it's a save icon. and it, you know, it's
Yeah, why is that the
the
icon?
it's
Or
the
a
oral
TV show, don't
equivalent
touch
of it.
that dial. What is don't touch that dial? What is it?
Yeah,
Why does a phone make a dial tone? Where does
yeah.
the word dial come into play?
Sarah calls the remote for the TV the clicker, and and
Because
I and
it clicks so loudly.
I always say something about it, and she was like, "You don't correct my mom and dad when they say it." I'm like, "Because they're old enough to remember when it clicked." And she's
I
like, "It
remember when it
used to
clicked.
click." I'm like, "Yeah, we had an old one when I was a little kid that clicked. We never called it a clicker though. We always called it a remote
Yeah.
because it remotely controls the TV, but it does not click anymore." And but there's a lot of that where we get old shit. Did I ever tell you? Look, this is a good story. This is a side. This is another tangent, but this podcast should be called "Talking About the Big Stuff with More Than
And the little
Occasional
stuff.
Tangent," and more than the occasional tangent. So, speaking of saying, so I lived in Colorado for a year and a half in my early 20s, and I was working at a cell phone store. We will not say which one because I don't want to give them advertising, and I don't want to have any fucking problems. But I'm working at a cell phone store, and one of my coworkers is a native Coloradan, and he knew me well at this point. We're pretty good friends, and he knows me, and so he knows my personality. And I said,
Asshole.
yes. He also knew that I have like a filthy mouth and shit. So I said, you never look a gift horse in the mouth. And I was in front of a customer that I said it, and he's like, he yanked me into like the back room, and he's like, don't say stuff like that in front of customers. And I was like, what do you think I said? And he was like, I don't know. You said something about a horse's mouth. I'm like,
It's terrible to say
yes.
something about horse's mouth.
I said, don't look a gift horse in the mouth. And he goes, you can't say dirty shit like that. And I'm like, it's not dirty. And he goes, how is it not dirty? And I'm like, what do you think it means? And he's like, I don't know. You want to fuck a horse's mouth? I was like, no. I was like, a horse's health is dependent or
It's the
is
age. You
signified
can estimate the horse's age by the condition
age
of its mouth. Is
and
what
their
you
health a
really
lot
get
of
by.
times is
Yeah,
based on their teeth. And so
right.
if you look in the inn and you see a bunch of dirty teeth, and nasty teeth, and the horse is gonna die, you're still
Yeah.
getting a gift horse. So don't fucking like, don't.
It's also like you don't criticize the gift you're getting while you're
Yeah,
getting it. You can
yeah,
look at the gift horse in the mouth later, but not while you're getting it.
yeah. And he
Yeah.
was like, I've never heard that before. I'm like, it is not. I'm like, this is not a Massachusetts thing. I promise you, this is not a Massachusetts thing. It's not a dirty thing. I'm like, it is
Like,
not a thing that was a problem at all. And he,
if you never watched an old movie about the horse races and they always go back to the stables and they pull the horse's lips back and look in their mouth and fuck them. Oh, wait, maybe he's right.
if you're gonna fuck a horse, why would you do it in the mouth? They have such big teeth.
Oh, rough tongue, though. You
Yeah.
put sugar cubes on it, you're good. You're good to go. But there are downsides to being a horse porn star.
Yeah. Mr. Hands would know. Do you know that reference?
The only Mr. Hands I know is from Mr. Bill, not the
No,
same Mr.
there's.
Hands.
I don't want to Google it. I'm pretty sure. So when I was in college, there was a couple of like urban legend kind of things. One of them was Mr. Hands, which I don't know is a real thing, but a lot of times they said it was a big reason why bestiality laws were what they were because this guy fucked a horse. The horse was so big that it like ripped him open and he died. And I don't know if that's true. The other
I mean,
thing
let's
that
say the horse fucked him, then he didn't fuck the horse. I'm
good
just
point.
saying.
Good point. The other one that was going around when I was in college the first time was Two Girls, One Cup, which always looked fake. But when the first time when I was like, someone was like, "Hey, come in here. I want to show you something cool," and I saw it, I was like, "Holy fuck!"
The best thing about that was the reaction videos that became a thing. People would do, first, first it started people doing hidden camera to show, their girlfriend's reaction when she saw it kind of thing.
Yeah.
But then people started doing fake ones. And my friend Mookie, a guy I used to do comedy with, he did one where he's eating chocolate frosty from Wendy's, and he's like there looking at the spoon, and he's watching, like looking at the camera as if he's looking at the video, getting closer and closer, and then licking the spoon and wiping it out of the corner of his mouth. It was so funny. It was,
That's yeah.
Mookie's a comic genius. Mookie, if you're watching this, you're a comic genius, but you know that because we did comedy together for 20 years.
Yeah. No, it's a gross video. Next tangent. Um, you've not been listening to god awful movies for quite a while. You told me.
I listened to the last one that Cara Santa Maria was on, which was
Yeah,
the one that psychology and psychiatry are fake. That one I listened to. But I
yeah,
don't usually do the religious ones because it's the same jokes over and over again. I do like
yeah.
the pseudoscience ones that Cara's on.
I listened. So I listened
Even
to.
if Cara did do 9/11.
Yeah, that's what I heard. I listened to the documentary ones. I think they're documentary ones. I think they're more interesting. You don't have to have seen to know like, oh, this performance or this lighting is bad. Like you just get the point. But this week's episode that I just finished listening was Fast X,
Hmm.
and I have not seen a Fast and the Furious movie since the second one.
I don't even know if I saw that one. I know I saw most of the first one.
Yeah, I
I
saw
don't
the
know if I
first
made
one
it to
in
the end.
theaters. I saw the first one in
I think
theaters.
I
I
made it
saw,
to the end. He lets him go at the end, right? Yes, I saw the first one.
yeah, and so I've been told a couple times that by Paul from the World's Best
The expert in media.
podcast. I was told by him that like they've completely changed genres. They are basically Universal's version of superhero movies now,
Yeah,
and
I've heard in the middle it gets good. Like
yeah,
5 through 7 were really good or something. Someone
right.
told me that.
And I've heard that too. And Logan saw the trailer for Fast X and was like, "Well, I want to see that." And I'm like, "Yeah, I have no idea. If I want to see it, I want to watch all of them because I want to see the progression, the weird progression." But listening to their episode about Fast X, I was like, "This show's kind of spoilery." So if it gets in, so if it gets into spoiler territory, I'm going to shut it off. And then I was like, I was listening. I was like, "Oh, you know what? I'm not gonna because." They can spoil everything and it doesn't matter because I don't fucking understand. It was
All
so
right.
funny, but I didn't understand any of it. And I'm
Don't
like,
know who the characters are, what the
well,
setup is.
they're describing things. I'm like, why is this in a race car movie? Like the first one I kind of got. They like racing cars. They steal TVs off the back of trucks or whatever it was. I didn't. That wasn't that far. Those two things weren't that far removed from each other.
Right.
But they're describing shit, and they're like, yeah, there's just a giant nuclear beach ball that's rolling down the streets of Rome. All of a sudden they're in Brazil. All of a sudden they're in Peru. All of a sudden they're in England again. And I'm like, I genuinely, I wanted to see it. It made me want to see it, and I was like, I want to see it because if they made shit up and just were like, let's throw the weirdest ideas we have out there and describe that as Fast X because we know that half the listeners don't watch the movies, I wouldn't know the difference between them just
Right.
being like,
This could have been an
then
April
there's
Fool's episode as far as you
yeah,
know.
there's aliens come down and they they abduct Vin Diesel and probe him anally
He's
and
Groot.
yeah, he is Groot. That movie is very good. The third one.
We'll see it when it gets to streaming.
Anyway, so that
Though actually, The Flash has me almost wanting to go to a movie theater. Like week take a weekday off, and go see it at like the 1 o'clock show at a theater where you pick your seat, so I can sit outside 5 minutes before the movie and go, okay, what's an area of the theater there are no disease-ridden people in? Buy that seat and go in.
what about a drive-through? Are there no drive-throughs
Well,
near
what
you?
do you get, a burger and then keep? I don't understand, why would I do a drive-through? You just drive through. You're not even there anymore.
Drive-in. You know what I meant. Psycho.
I think there's one maybe a half an hour from here.
Yeah. I'm gonna see The Flash in theaters. Did you hear the big reveal that I heard about today? It could be days old. I don't know of what one more
No,
cameo that's going to be in it.
I did not.
Can I spoil something ridiculous for you?
If it's ridiculous, people don't listen. Everyone go la la la. Okay, go ahead.
Nobody else other than if Paul's listening will give a single shit about this part except for you.
Ambush bug, and Cheeks the Boy Wonder.
Yeah, I don't.
Sorry, I'm very obscure sometimes.
Yeah. Uh, they're gonna have Nicolas Cage's Superman in this movie.
Well, I did hear that it's got something for the fan of every era. So it's like it's going to be like Crisis on Infinite Earths, kind of glimpses of things, which they just did in Titans on the Max.
Yeah.
But yeah,
And I just was like, I never watched the documentary, or maybe I did watch some of it. I forget, but I followed it enough that I understand the basic idea that Tim Burton was going to make a Superman movie with Kevin Smith wrote it. Is that right?
They were trying to get Kevin Smith. Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean, he wrote a treatment for it, and but he never went all the way
yeah.
to being totally involved. The producer was the big story Kevin Smith tells that the producer kept saying, "Oh, we want a giant robot spider. You know how strong spiders are? He needs to fight a giant robot spider at the end." And like they were like, "You have to do it." And he's like, "I'm not making a giant robot spider for Superman to fight." He goes, "You have to." So they had those, and then of course the movie never happened. He goes, but then like a couple of years later, he goes to see a movie. He goes to see Wild Wild West with
Yeah.
Will Smith and Kevin Kline, and it's the same producer. And he goes, Act 3 starts, and there's a motherfucking giant mechanical spider.
As
And I
soon
was like,
as you
shit, it is
said,
pretty cool. He was right.
as soon as you said a couple years later, I was like, it's Wild Wild West.
Yeah, yeah,
I
exactly.
actually okay, and this could be just because I was 12 or 13 when Wild Wild West came out.
Wild
I
Wild West.
I loved that movie. Like,
Wild Wild West.
but all right, I don't want to get too into. I don't want to encroach on Paul's territory, and have him. I don't want to have a. I don't want to have a podcast feud by us talking nerd shit.
How old were you when that came out? Wild Wild West.
What is it? The movie.
The movie, yeah, not the TV show in the 60s.
I thought you were gonna pull a.
No, no. I used to watch
Was
that
it
with my dad in
96 or
reruns.
97?
99.
Oh, then I was 14 or 15.
I had two children
I had. I was
that I
masturbating
knew were
already.
mine before you for the gag.
Yeah, yeah. I was already ejacking.
I had 2 out of 3.
Yeah, I was probably freshly ejacked. That's Sarah and I like that term, freshly ejacked. Sometimes
Mm-hmm.
we'll joke about that before I go off to record or go off to hop on a meeting, and she'll be like, "Do you need to be freshly
Like it's
ejacked?"
something about Mary. You want to get the pressure off before you start.
Yeah. Pressure off, pressure in, whatever.
Well, there's your presser.
Yeah,
It's one of the tough things about being a porn star.
yeah.
I got to go find that video. How do I Google that?
It's not like it's not, she's not dressed in anything particularly
She's not dressed in
skimpy.
anything. What is she, a porn star?
No, like it's not like there's nothing like sexually appealing
Erotic?
about this video. Yeah, erotic. There we go. I mean, she's cute. She's not like I wouldn't even say she's hot, but she's cute. But other than her naturally being semi attractive, or she's attractive. Uh, other than that, there's nothing like unless you're into girls being semi sad.
I kind of am. I'm married. Anyone who marries me is going to be semi-sad a lot.
Yeah, I can see it. Especially if
Sometimes semi-rough, sometimes semi-tough. It's an old person's joke.
I
It's an
don't
old
get
person's
it.
joke. You're
I
not
don't
old. You're not
fucking
old
get
enough.
it.
No, you don't. You're not old enough.
I'm going for that sweet, sweet Gen X.
It's my sweet Mac Davis joke. Woohoo!
Yeah. So you got anything to plug?
Um, I've made a commitment to myself that I'm going to start using Loose Stools' TikTok account. So TikTok, letting go at Loose Stools, one of my puppets. I've made a commitment that I'm going to start using him.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Cool.
There's like 2 videos on there only, but I've written 3 more scripts. I just need to start filming them now.
Yeah. I keep being told by coworkers that we need to put clips of this up on TikTok, and I'm like, I don't want to download TikTok again to do that. I got like at the beginning of COVID, I got really hooked on TikTok, and I don't want to do it. I'm bad enough with Reels, but with Reels, it's not the same level. And within 5 Reels, I'm not on like radicalized white supremacy stuff. And
Well, I mean, just don't watch that stuff, and the
I'm
algorithm will give you that stuff.
just joking.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to be radicalized in shortcuts for cooking.
Yeah.
Gonna make ravioli lasagna,
Nice. I've seen that
which
one.
I do want to do a CK's video of making taking the usual pasta and meat sauce, not bolognese, just a regular meat sauce, and just swapping out ravioli for the pasta so that it's a ravioli meat sauce, like in the Instant Pot.
Okay.
With, sauce from scratch,
We
not
still
the
have
jar.
another episode to record, and I'm hungry, so let's maybe stop.
All right, let's
this.
rock and roll.
All right. Everybody, if you can go on and subscribe to this. If you are not already subscribed, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, Spotify, wherever you're listening. If you're watching us, I should look right into camera. Unfortunately, okay, quickly, this is more for the viewers than for the listeners, but for whatever reason, I like to watch on my big monitor that's over here, but my camera is here, and it's the built-in camera. I might end up changing that so that I can actually look at the camera and see my display. So that's why the whole video I'll be looking up in the corner. Yeah.
But more importantly, everyone out there, it's hard to be a porn star, so thanks for taking our big stuff.
All right. Well, let's